Unfortunately, when we are first born, the liver's ability to clear certain things is weak. That's why kids get jaundice when they're first born, because they have a weak glucuronidation. They don't glucuronidate the bilirubin, and it tends to build up. They get a little jaundiced. Well, bisphenol A, being an estrogen-like substance, is detoxed in the same way. And the newborns have a weak glucuronidation, so they're going to bioaccumulate this stuff much easier than those of us as we get older. Over 95% of urines now test positive at levels high enough to cause harm in animals. It's known to cause neurological, developmental effects and interfere with, again, estrogen and thyroid function. Associated with cancers of the breast, testicle, diabetes, hyperactivity, obesity, and low sperm counts. You know, the diabetes and obesity is really interesting. We have a genetic makeup, and we would like to think that our gene pool is constant from the time we're born, but it's not. You know, we start from an egg and a sperm, which forms a certain genetic matrix, and as we go through the process of becoming a person, that cell, the DNA in there turn on and off through this process, so that we can take a fibroblast and develop it into a muscle cell, into a heart muscle cell, into a bone cell, into all these different things. And that's done by turning on and turning off certain genes. So they're active in this group of cells or inactive in this group. Some of the chemicals will do that also. Bisphenol A is one that will alter the genetic makeup, the expression of the gene. It's called an epigenetic phenomenon. You know, we've got the string of genes, but if you fold them in a certain way, if you methylate them, they fold up. If you acetylate them, they do something different. They turn on, they turn off. Some of these chemicals will do that, not only in the individual that is exposed, but this now becomes an inheritable trait. Wonderful studies with rats exposed to bisphenol A, they saw that the adult that was exposed started developing certain genetic characteristics. They would get fat. They would start having blood sugar problems, diabetes. Their offspring had the same problem, and the offspring of those offspring, and on generationally. This epigenetic phenomenon was transmitted. The toxins that we're exposed to today and our grandparents were exposed to are being transmitted. Bisphenol A happens to be the one that was able to demonstrate that very, very clearly. And the problems are at doses much lower than what we're currently being exposed to. That's number 7. So all 7 of the plastics are represented there. Yes, quick. Bisphenol A? Oh, probably about 15 years ago. Okay. And again, everything that I'm going to talk about is referenced in the resource guide much more extensively. I don't have nearly enough time to go into what's in there, and I just really encourage you to, on Monday or in your rooms, go open up the resource guide and play with it. Start to research. Camelback brand plastic bottles use this new polymer called Eastman Trident copolyester X300, which is free of BPA, and there's been no hormone disrupting problems. It really seems to be doing a good job. It's a nice alternative. The Vitamix is a really nice juicer that it's not an extractor. It keeps the fiber in there. That's also made with this Eastman Trident. So there are hard plastics that are safe. This is a Smart Plastics Guide. You can reference that through the resource guide. You can download this. This is a 4-page document, and it tells you about the plastics, where they are, where to find them. Let's divert a little bit now to Teflon. Anybody have Teflon frying pans at home? All right. Easy thing to do on Monday morning. Throw it out. Throw it out. This is this PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid, that is used in there to prevent things from sticking. It is released even when the surface is intact, but once that surface is scratched, it's released at a much more rapid rate. It is now classified as a likely carcinogen. It's associated with liver, thyroid, immune system damage. So just get rid of them. They're no longer saleable. Just throw them out. I'm going to mention PAPs. PAPs are those little white things that you see under your meat when you buy from the grocery store. When you buy the steak. So this PAPs is there to prevent the grease from seeping through. But unfortunately, it's converted to the same stuff as in Teflon, at least inside lab rats and presumably inside us. So this is that thing where you buy your meat, this fat meat that's going to absorb things on a styrofoam bed with this white PAPs thing, and then it's covered over with saran wrap. Sound good? And you stick that in the microwave to thaw it out before. Yeah, okay. So the meat doesn't come to the grocery store wrapped up. It comes uncut. The butcher cuts it up and puts it onto those things and then wraps it up. Ask him to put it onto wax paper. Right? Just say, no, I'm not going to take it on that kind of a container. Right? If they don't have wax paper behind the counter, say, I'll be right back. Excuse me. Go down to aisle 7. Come back with wax paper. Here, you can use that. And keep it. Give it to the next person. Freezer paper is okay, too. Okay? And you could take that home with you in the freezer paper, put that inside a Ziploc baggie. That's fine. Right? Cellophane is fine, too. That's a wood product. Right? That crinkly stuff. So some of the grocery stores have this crinkly, which I think is a cellophane derivative. All right, so there's certainly loads of alternatives to nonstick cookware, and stainless steel works great if you haven't used it. You don't even wash it afterwards. You just you take your little scrubby and everything comes off of it. Cast iron, if you don't have an iron overload problem, the cast iron is fine. The anodized aluminum, I think, is going to be fine. Everything I've read about it seems to be fine. I haven't found anything to call it a problem yet. It's aluminum, so we've got to be a little bit cautious, but it's one of the ones that's very common out there. And if you're going to microwave at all, microwaving causes damage to the food. If you're going to microwave, I would suggest that you only use that to heat your food and not to cook your food. Just a little reheating is fine. But do that in glass or ceramic and never in anything plastic. Right? Do you know what microwave safe means? It means the container will not be damaged in the microwave. Right? It doesn't matter whether you get damaged by it. So what are surfactants? We've talked about Teflon that prevents things from sticking. Surfactants are things that are added to a lot of our chemicals at home to make things stick. If you want to spray insecticide on your plants at home, you want it to stick to the plant. Or hairspray or various things that you want to stay in their place. So we use these things called surfactants. And unfortunately, the surfactants as used will often, at least have been demonstrated to cause reproductive problems, at least in aquatic and laboratory animals. It's very difficult to run these experiments in people. We just don't have a way to do that. So we rely on the lab animals. Those are some of the things used in the detergents and pesticides. So the reason I say this, I don't expect you to know what your surfactants are and which ones are dangerous, but if you will go to a resource guide that says, here's a look at what you're currently using, what's in there, what the known risk of those chemicals are, and here's some places that are marketing green alternatives that are going to be safer to use. And it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to get it right every time. We're going to be buying stuff that is sold as green, but may not be a whole lot better than what we want. But it's a process. It's an evolution. We start to shift. We shift our buying, and then we shift the production. They will shift over to match us. Why does artificial turf come in here? Well, it's actually it's made from recycled rubber. A lot of our schools are putting these into the playgrounds now, so I think we want to know what the artificial turf is made of. These things will reach a temperature of 160 degrees. I play soccer. I play competitive soccer, and I can tell you I could walk barefoot on the black asphalt, but when I get onto the turf, my feet burn. You can't walk on it. It is too hot. At that temperature, lots of things are being released, including the surfactant we just talked about, those other chemicals, and lead is being released. And these kids are playing there. They're rubbing their faces into it, and they're breathing the air as they get down lower. So we want to know about this stuff. And they're also just more dangerous to play on. You could fall on grass and you get a little bit of a scrape, but if you fall on that artificial turf, it really is brutal. There's a bull that's trying to run on artificial turf. Hey, good. Good, thank you. Look at that. Could you imagine being the photographer? And you got this little thing over here. What is this? Somebody's shirt? It's like yeah. Okay, flame retardants. The foam in our couches is incredibly flammable. You'll get a cigarette on that, it's like an explosive bomb. So we want to make sure that there are something to block that kind of explosion. We have been putting flame retardants in there, and that's very appropriate. The most common flame retardants are these polybrominated diphenyl ethers. And I'll show you what it looks like. But a bunch of bromine molecules stuck onto this polycyclic carbon. And when it's heated, the bromine comes off, and it forms like a cloud over the top of the foam, so the oxygen can't get through. It's a damp blanket, so that slows down the combustion. The problem is that when it's heated, these polybrominated diphenyl ethers form dioxin. So, we want to have something that stops the flaming, but maybe this is not the best choice. All right, it's used in a lot of the plastics, those wall sockets in your cell phones. When your cell phones heat up, you're going to be releasing those polybrominated diphenyl ethers. The computers, there was a huge amount of this toxin coming out when the World Trade Center went down, along with the arsenic and mercury and lead from the computers. They also are known thyroid disruptors, very, very powerful thyroid disruptors. They do cross placenta. And because the kids are crawling on the floor, what happens is the foam is encased inside a nice cloth. As the